She is the new Congresswoman from the 5th District of Oklahoma, and she joins us now. Welcome, Congressman Bice. It's great to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me, Hugh.
I'd like to note for everyone at the beginning, you are the first, and this surprised me, Iranian American elected to the Congress. What does it feel to be the first Congresswoman and the first Iranian American elected from your ethnic group?
Actually, I wasn't aware of that when I was elected either, but my father is an immigrant. He came here in 1970. My parents met young and got married. And, I was raised, really not super familiar with Iran other than the things that my dad would share with me. But over the years, I've learned a lot about the history, the culture, the conflict, of course. And I hope that, someday there's an opportunity to bridge the relationship. But unfortunately, right now, and it has been for many decades, the Iranian regime is one that is challenging for its own people. But I think one of the great things is I can really educate folks on the difference between the government and the people. And that's one of the things I hope to do over my time serving.
Now, Congresswoman Bice, which committees have you landed on?
Well, I am super excited. I was named to the House Armed Services Committee, which is an important part of.
Yep.
Thank you. It's a really important part of the district. We have right outside of the district is Tinker Air Force Base, which employs about 25,000 civilians and 3,000 military, many of which live in the 5th Congressional District. So I'm very excited to be on armed services. And I also am a member of the Space Science and Technology Committee, and as a matter of fact, will be part of the subcommittee for environment on that as well.
Well, congratulations on armed services. That's, I always think, the premier. Now, my friend Mike Gallagher is on there, and you have to be careful about him because Gallagher's a Packers fan. He gets a little bit crazy at certain times of the year, but be very, very careful about him. We also hope that you will be pro-Navy. Even though you've got an Air Force base there, I hope you're going to be pro-Navy. This is a navalist show.
It's interesting that you bring that up. There's actually a naval installation on Tinker Air Force Base.
What? In Oklahoma?
In Oklahoma, that's exactly right. I was a honorary commander at Tinker Air Force Base about 4 years ago when I was in the state Senate, and I learned that there is a small Navy installation, flies an important plane out of Tinker Air Force Base, and so yes, I will be paying attention to the Navy as well.
Well, good. I recommend to you the brand new book by Jerry Hendricks to provide and to maintain and provide a Navy, to build and provide, to provide and maintain a Navy. That's the color. He's quoting the Constitution. To provide and maintain a Navy. I want everyone to buy that. Tell me, Congresswoman Bice, what's it like the first week, the first 2 weeks? You've got this crazy proceeding going on in the Senate. Yeah. It's been a very tumultuous post-election period. How are you settling in?
Well, I think it was shocking and really disappointing in a lot of ways. Never in my wildest dreams did I believe that we would have a riot and then an impeachment vote in my first 2 weeks as a new member of Congress. And it's funny because many of the senior members have seen freshmen walking by in the halls and said, man, I feel sorry for you guys. It's a rocky start, certainly. A lot of division, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger. My hope is that we'll get past that. It's interesting. Biden talked a lot about unity in his inauguration speech, but we've seen exactly the opposite over the last few weeks with the executive orders that he's been pushing forward and really, a lack of engagement so far. And, I hope that we can get past that. The American people are tired. They are tired of the rhetoric. They're tired of the fighting. They want Congress to get to work for them, and that's what I think most of us want.
Now, would you give the audience some background on how you came to run for Congress? I know you served in the Oklahoma State Senate, but give us the sort of thumbnail that people in your constituency in Oklahoma 5th will know.
Sure. I was actually in the private sector for almost 20 years. I did sales and marketing, worked for a tech company, did digital marketing, and had my own firm, and was approached about running for the state Senate back in 2013. I had never run for public office before, had no idea how to run, but I thought it was important. There were not enough women serving in Oklahoma in the legislature at the time. Out of 149 members, 19 were women. So as the mother of daughters, I thought it was a great opportunity for me to show my daughters not to be afraid to do something sort of big and bold and outside the box. So ran for the state Senate seat in 2014, won my runoff election that August, and served in that capacity for 6 years. In 2018, I was up for my first reelection and won my reelect by the largest number of votes of any state legislator in Oklahoma. And that was the same night Republicans lost the congressional seat that we had held for over 40 years to Congresswoman Kinder Horn. And I happened to be at the GOP watch party celebrating the new governor, and people started walking up to me saying, "Are you ready to run for Congress?" And I thought it was, very humbling, but I hadn't really thought about it. And several months later, I announced my intent to run for the Republican nomination, and here we are.
So tell me, Congresswoman Bice, when you've got redistricting ahead of you, is Oklahoma losing a district, gaining a district, or staying the same?
We are staying the same. Oklahoma City, which is the metro area that I represent, has had tremendous growth over the last 10 years. We've seen a real explosion of folks moving in, and so there will be some changes. We're just not really sure what those numbers will look like, and I'm a little disappointed that we're not finding out those numbers for another several months. I was hopeful that we would see that in the next few weeks, but my understanding now is it's going to be July, which is 6 months past when we thought we would see numbers, and that's pretty frustrating.
And that puts a jam down on every redistricting effort. In Oklahoma, I believe it is done by the legislature without the input of the governor. Correct me if I'm wrong. So they have to get a committee.
That is correct.
Yeah, so they have to get a committee together, and they have to divvy up all of those state representative seats. And then how many members of Congress does Oklahoma have?
We have 5, and here's an interesting side note. It has to be passed by the legislature, and we are not in session after the last Friday in May. So this requires now that the governor will have to call a special session sometime later in the summer or fall to be able to pass the redistricting lines.
That is pretty remarkable. Now, go back to the campaign. Oklahoma, of course, big oil and gas state. Very first thing President Biden does is veto the Keystone Pipeline. What do you think is ahead for your industry that is so basic to the economy of the Show Me State?
I'm really.
I'm sorry. Oh my gosh, not the Show Me State. Whoa, the Sooner State. Oh my gosh.
I won't. My friends up north will be okay.
Yeah.
It's really troubling. I was part of a press conference last week in a roundtable with Leader McCarthy talking about the impact of the executive orders, and people have said, "Wait a minute, the Keystone doesn't run through Oklahoma," which is true, but there are a lot of ancillary impact from the Keystone Pipeline, particularly for companies that do work on the line, whether it's pipeline safety or other types of services. So you do have an impact there. But my bigger concern is that we are taking a step back. We are beginning to look at really limiting our ability to explore. He not only did he put a pause on the Keystone, but he also put a moratorium on ban on federal land drilling. And these are going to be real issues moving forward because of production. And my additional concern here is we haven't even seen what he plans to do with EPA regulations. So it's an interesting dynamic because President Biden is saying that he wants to help low-income families, but what's happening is he's going to drive up the cost of oil and gas, which means you're going to have higher gas prices, higher heating oil prices, and it's going to have the exact opposite effect of what he says he wants to do. It makes no sense. It hurts states' economy, Oklahoma as well as New Mexico and others, and Texas, North Dakota. It doesn't make any sense, and it's under the guise of we want cleaner energy. Look, oil and gas companies are very familiar with how to be mindful of environment. I mean, they have to deal with things like making sure that they don't impact the breeding ground of the lesser prairie chicken, which we had a fight in Oklahoma about several years ago.
Well, for 30 years, I practiced endangered species law, so I know that business. I'm retired now. But light crude is up to $58 a barrel. You're absolutely right, Congresswoman Bice. Please keep coming back. Congratulations on walking into Congress.